Hi, I'm Laura Cox Kaplan. Welcome to She Said, She Said. My guest today is the amazing Kate Boyer. Kate is the CEO of luxury activewear company Anatomy. Anatomy has been included on the list of most disruptive brands just behind Allbirds shoes. And that, of course, was before COVID and this pandemic. We're going to talk to Kate about how she built this brand and how she has continued to evolve and pivot to meet customer needs during this very unique and scary time. Kate also has an amazing personal story. She was born in Soviet-occupied Budapest. We're going to talk to her about how that shaped her world view and how she found her love and created this brand. It's a fabulous story, and I know you'll be amazed and inspired by her. Kate, welcome to She Said, She Said.
Hello, thank you for
Hi.
having me. I'm excited, Laura.
I'm so happy to have you. As you know already, I'm a big fan of your brand, and I'm wearing the camo cargos, even though I don't think people can actually see those from
Oh,
where.
you should stand up and show your butt. That's what we're famous for. We make your butt look good.
I wish my butt looked a little bit better right now. Maybe
Oh, sure it does.
after the pandemic. So, Kate, tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about what makes Anatomy so special.
Well, ladies like yourselves wearing them, number one. I mean, seriously, yeah, it's an incredible database of like-minded ladies that are stylish, affluent, they know what they want, they appreciate good quality, and they know a good one when they see one. So many times I say, you are the brand, I'm just the packaging. So with that said, what makes our product unique and the brand, right, is a really unique combination of the European high performance fabrics that we stick to since the beginning and the foundation of the company. I'm CEO and co-founders. And our tailoring, our craftsmanship. We work with these amazing 3-generation, family pattern makers in Europe. Many of them work for the Prada families, Armani. So we're part of that elite clique of designers, factories, pattern makers, sample makers. They just know what they're doing, the last couple 100 years. That's that. And then really the weight of the materials that we use are lightweight, stretchy, comfortable fabric combinations, I think is unique to the brand. The tailored fit, you look amazing. They're fitted but not tight. That's very hard to do in our industry.
Yep.
So we're known for that. And also we designed the pants by body type. So, the name Anatomy speaks for itself. So if you look it up in the dictionary, it means the perfect analysis of a human body and its moving parts. So that's who we are. We designed the pants by body type. We started with one over a decade ago. Now we have 9 as we grew and expanded and started selling to more ladies in different shapes and sizes and, all across the world. So that makes us very unique that we have such a body conscious, approach to designing. We are more of a smart solution based brand, right? We're more practical. We're not so trendy. We're trying to be, and we are timeless, seasonless, ageless. It's another thing that makes us unique, how we have mom, daughter, grandma in the brand. Not many clothing companies can do that and make everybody look good and, age and time appropriate as well. So it's a long list. I can talk all day about what makes Anatomy unique.
The product itself is fantastic. And for those who are actually joining us via our YouTube channel, you'll notice that Kate and I are actually wearing the same,
without coordinating.
I have it on.
I have it on. We make.
Exactly. I have it on with her great leather jacket and the camo cargos, as I mentioned before, but you sort of get an idea of how you can sort of mix it up. It's a great classic white shirt. So, Kate,
well, you see this mesh, look, let me just point out. See, this is what makes us also unique. You have the same sleeves, right? Your shirt has mesh sleeves or it's solid? No, it's like that?
Yeah, they're mesh, just like that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So it's a power mesh. It doesn't snag. It's impossible to ruin if ladies like jewelry and things like that. And it's also SPF 70. So we're moisture wicking, antibacterial, UV protective, but all in a nice white crisp shirt, which we designed. I like N10, but it was so wrinkly and it was kind of overpriced. I'm like, we need our own white shirt that can just stay crisp no matter what, that I don't have to worry about. It looks good everywhere I go. So that's how he was born.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fantastic. So the product is great, the brand is great, but I want you to talk a little bit about your own personal story, because where
Oh,
you sort of how you evolved and found your career and your passion and your calling is a fascinating story. As I mentioned in the
mm.
intro, you grew up in Soviet-occupied Budapest, Hungary in the 1970s. Talk to me about what life was like and really where this inspiration originally came from.
So definitely I'm the generation that took down the Berlin Wall. So you have probably seen the CNN in the 80s. That was our 90s. America in the 80s was, Eastern Europe in the 90s. We had like a good decade of delay of getting Rambo and all those movies in, right? But what my life looked like. So I grew up in a little house that my grandparents built themselves. And when my parents got married very young, they started building on top of it. So we lived very close to the grandparents, literally one door away. I was like this tight with my grandma, God bless her. And yeah, it was like, four of us with my brother and my parents in a little tiny home. And we were happy as heck, we did everything together, walked to school every day. Was a competitive gymnast. That was part of the education back then. I spoke Russian fluent. All the teachers were Russian in the school.
Gymnastics was sort of an expected thing for you, is that right?
But for everybody, we had no choice. That was part of the communist thing, is that we're all equal, which I could never understand. Like I just felt like I had more in my heart and soul and balls to do with my life, right? But even little, it's really interesting how you have that. And I'm sure you see it in your kids and see it in my daughter, that they have their own personalities. And in our times back then, in those years, that was kind of not acceptable. There was no entrepreneurship. Everybody worked for the government, but people had like a nice, stable life. So when things changed in 1989, my grandparents, for example, didn't understand what's the good thing about all this market freedom. And all of a sudden we had homeless people. And, we didn't have that back then, because when people are equal, everybody has like a very small little, let's call it salary, right? You eat and that's it. Right? And then those who wanted more left the country. And I was one of those, hitchhiking out, 18 years old. Can you imagine my dad? I left with a group of athletes, Olympic athletes. I grew up with the kayak and canoe team, Hungarian boys. They were all 6 foot tall, 230 pounds, super handsome. And then me in the pack. So we hitchhiked out, landed in France at the end of the journey, and I ended up finishing my MBA in south of France, so I speak French fluent as well. My upbringing gave me a very disciplined, structured environment, a lot of gray colors, which was a sharp contrast to what I've seen south of France. Imagine that against Monte Carlo, right?
Right.
So lots of colors, a lot of beautiful moms and daughters shopping together. I'm like, oh my God, these ladies are so powerful, and everybody's in their jeans. This doesn't look so comfortable. Like I had this little thing in my head going, right? So to pay for school, I was teaching fitness, and my team became national champion in France 3 years in a row, because I was this tough Eastern European gymnast background coach turned student. And we made the first outfits for them to travel, train, and compete. And we didn't have a lot of money, so we needed very resistant fabrics. So I always thought there's beauty in resilience. And we still use like the fabrics you're wearing today in the white. That's the original anatomy material we use, because it doesn't wrinkle, it washes well, it lasts forever. So we really stand for a lifestyle with durability and sustainability. That's kind of like the opposite of fast fashion, because our line is built to last, and it comes from this background of, necessity, need, and survival.
Yeah. So did you grow up knowing how to sew? Like, how did you get from the point of sort of figuring out this team needs outfits, you need, active wear that's actually durable, that doesn't wrinkle, that ultimately is what became this brand. But how did you learn the construction part of the business?
Well, I didn't, and never did. I never wanted to, and I still don't want to. So
how did you do that? You found people to ultimately make the products.
Right. So a friend of mine, okay, I don't know if you can podcast this, but we were making fake Adidas t-shirts in my country back in the days as young people and selling them, right? So my friend had this little factory with like 6 sewing ladies, that we would buy the fabrics in Italy and France where I was living, and I would bring them back, and then they would be cutting and sewing. So as I started making, the outfits for my team, I used that little unit. And at 22 years old, I had 50 sewing ladies in Hungary working for me. It's pretty scary. So that's what happened. It just, the factory expanded as my business grew and the stores picked up the brand. And I was working with some big retailers, very young, while I was doing my MBA.
Yeah.
And the story ends, well, it doesn't end, it kind of starts. The real anatomy, as you know, it starts when I saw a TV program about St. Bart's and got a one-way ticket out of south of France, ended up in the Caribbean, did a lot of trunk shows on the yachts and the islands, and met some amazing American ladies like yourselves who said, Kate, this is incredible. You got to come to America. There's nothing like it. So keep in mind, back then I didn't even speak English, but started adventuring out, transited through Miami, and met my husband, who was doing menswear at the time. So to your question, how do we know how to sew? He did. He's the true dyslexic artist who's drawing and sewing, and he knows fitting and loves production and loves going to the factory. So it was kind of like a marriage made in fashion heaven. And we ended up making a baby like a decade later. We were busy selling clothes. But it took about a year for the business to turn into monkey business, into a collaboration. And we've been partners ever since, almost going on 20 years now. And I think we make a good team because we complete each other. It's kind of like yin and yang. I can see on more numbers and data. So when you look at our logo, we actually look behind the scenes anatomy. I'm about to approve this. See the little square in the circle with the anatomy girl in it? So it's like art and science, trying to put what's the English expression, a square pig in a round hole. That's what it looks like when you work with your husband.
So your husband, Sean, is he, what is his title? He's the artistic director,
Right, he's the creative director, and he's really, really talented. Okay, all jokes aside, he has an incredible eye, very connected to our customers. When we launched the brand, we were very European. The fit was small, it was very lightweight, and it was kind of expensive because we use these high-end fabrics. So we had to prove ourselves on the market. And America is tough because you guys react to change and you try new things, but if it's not good enough, it drops like a hot potato. So we had to prove that we have staying power, and we did over 600 events the first 4 years when we launched the brand. So we did trunk shows from Silicon Valley to the Hamptons to Texas to, DC in your area, all the country clubs, Pilates studios. We were following the lifestyle of our customers, and over the years they were telling us, Kate, Sean, listen guys, I pack this everywhere I go. We went to Africa, we did trips to Machu Picchu, I went to Asia, we were in Europe for a week, I wore 2 pairs of pants, 6 days straight. That's when we realized we are this luxury travel brand.
Yeah.
And we went to the top of the food chain with the Forbes Travel Guide, NetJets, Inspirato, Virtuoso Travel Agents. So we started branding ourselves along with these companies, and that's the anatomy today.
So I know as a result of COVID and the pandemic, there were a number of things that really changed pretty dramatically for you in terms of the wholesale piece of your business, as I understand. So you've got the direct-to-consumer piece, which you've always had. Right. But this was another piece that was a fairly big piece of your business. Talk a little bit about that and the relationships with high-end resorts and with cruise ships and things like that.
So 50% of our company was wholesale, and the other 50% was direct-to-consumer e-commerce. It slowly evolved from the direct selling model to 300 plus specialty stores. You mentioned hotel, resort, spas around the world that carry anatomy. And I think they will come back around little by little, but right now, as everybody knows, they're completely shut down. So we were, at the end of February, we were 28% above our 40% up budget for the year, right? And then the whole thing was just like a big slap in the face. So very quickly we had to pivot. And this is where some of my Eastern European survival skills come in place, where, we don't give up, right? So I haven't missed a day at work. It's close to my house. Some of the team is working from here, some from home. And the focus became, I had a meeting and I said, listen guys, 90 days at least we are direct to consumer only, we're digital only. So we had to learn to focus all of our efforts to, you know, some of these live IGTV sessions we have had, to refocusing all of our marketing. I mean, imagine several agencies under contract with big budgets, you know, that had to like, okay, forget your 2020 plan, guys. We need to rewrite the whole thing. I have my vision board behind me. It's all brand new. Everything that we planned, you know, changed. Yeah. So it's one thing that the cruise ships are not going anywhere and the hotels are closed every single Four Seasons, Ritz-Carlton, Canyon Ranch, Montage property, right? Neiman Marcus, store of golf shops. You know, we have a really nice golf distribution as well in 80 of the premier golf shops. Even though the ladies are golfing and they're buying online, the shops themselves are closed. So yeah, that was an interesting pivot. Where was I going with this? I was doing something.
Well, you were talking about, you mentioned how your upbringing ultimately, you just plowed through. I mean, you saw a problem, you set about to solve it. I think what people would find really interesting is how you did that, right? Do you have a toolkit or something that you turn to?
No, and there's no book, remember? There's no book written. We're on unknown territory, all of us. Big brands, small brands, it's uncharted, never seen before times. Mm-hmm. So no toolkit, no book, no nothing. It's day by day, team meetings, and challenging everybody to do their best. And I told my team, listen, I need your brains working, guys, together as a team. It cannot come from Kate and Sean just alone, you know, figuring this out. So our wholesale manager, gentleman, his name is Kevin, you know, the two options, right? You lay him off or you change the job description. Mm-hmm. So there was an amazing company called Worth, New York based, direct selling model. They got sold to a private equity firm, and it basically went not bankrupt, but they shut it down. They couldn't operate it the way the founder did back in the days. And it left a network of 400 ladies who sold clothing for 20 years around the country in the wealthiest neighborhoods. So we picked up the phone and I said, who was the top performer? I need them in anatomy. And now we have a team lead and a team of 15 ladies soon to be announced. You're actually probably the first one to know around the country that we have 15 of their top performer stylists engaging and starting to sell anatomy starting next week and forward. They just got their sample sets. So my wholesale manager is now the VIP stylist manager's team, you know, training them on the back end, order entries, inventory readings, and things like that. So instead of helping 300 stores, he'll be helping 15 ladies. I don't know how he's going to handle that, but these are the choices.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because you are really doubling down on your direct to consumer model, but through both a different sort of marketing channel, but also through these stylists or sales associates, if you will. And so it changes both the way that you manage the different elements of the brand. It changes the way in which you interact with your customer. I'd love for you to talk a bit more about, because I know how passionate you are about your relationship with your customer and how important she is. Talk a little bit about, maybe give people some advice for how you build that connection and how you really listen and hear her feedback.
Means from day one, these ladies gave us a lot of tough love, right? Just by their personalities, they say things as it is, good or bad. Uh-huh. So when they mention bad things like, Kate, listen, I'm paying $800 for 4 pieces. These snaps cannot be popping off. When we started the company, we had this idea that the pants could look like jeans, but they feel like sweatpants. But the fabric is very light, and we like the hardware, both Sean and I, that goes in jeans. They would pull out because it was so light. So until we, you know, you like ladies like us have, Kate, really, you guys get your act together. That's how they talk to us. So I said, you know what, quality control team, I went to the factory. I'm like, we need to fix this because these ladies just going to buy more pants. It has to last. It has to do what it says we promise it's going to do, right? There's no tricking these ladies. They're smart, right? So you have to respect your customer. I think it starts with that and listen to that voice, because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Yeah. So from there, between the founder's vision and having this connection with our end users, I had to teach it to the team as well, because everything in the corporate culture has to respect this DNA that we have so much in our heart as founders. So that took a while, right? And it takes the right team. And there were some tough decisions down the road, but I was only looking for people who could build this connection and relationship. And it's kind of like your travel agent and your doctor that knows your body. I was teaching our customer service ladies, listen, you need to be best friends with these ladies and know everything about their kids and husbands and the divorce and whatever comes up, right? You need to be like tight and close. So there's a trust factor that's built over time. And you have to earn it. You have to be patient because it's not a one-time happening. And I think when you can read in Harvard Business Review, there's a lot of things about branding, but today's brands, the good ones that survive and stick, build this relationship with the customer. You know, back in the days when we were all young, it was just a logo, right? It was McDonald's and you had a sandwich. It was Nike, you had good running shoes. Now a brand has a meaning. So you have to be a brand with a purpose. So for those out there trying to build that, you need to find your voice and you need to listen and execute. I tell my team, listen, just give these ladies what they want and then we'll all be rich. It's so simple. Don't argue. These camo pants you're wearing, it came from a customer of ours that said, Kate, I have your pants in black, navy, gray, khaki, and white. You need to do some prints. I'm like, what kind of print? She's like, well, camo never goes out of style. So we kind of tweaked the idea, added the navy, and it's been selling for years. Yeah. Our 2 pull-on pants came from customers who sent me old Prada leggings and said, Kate, I've had this for 15 years. You just need to put it in your fabric. So we did that. Yeah. So a lot of our best sellers were developed with customers in mind and actually named after them as well. You probably notice all of our styles have female names, like the Hurricanes. There's a reason for that.
I love it. How do you know, Kate, which feedback to listen to, right? If you're getting conflicting feedback from your customers, or how do you distill this and know when it's time to make a new product or to pivot from one that maybe you and Sean were very personally invested in, but it's just not working for your customer? I don't know if that ever happens, but how do you know who to listen to?
It does happen actually when we it happens if we don't stay focused. It's a really interesting question you just asked. I could put you on speaker at the design team for having a meeting about spring 2021 right now. I was trying to explain this to them. You have to stick to your core. If you deviate too much, right, it starts to look like products that you already have in your closet from other brands who might do a better job than I do at this, right? Nobody beats our pants. Nobody beats this white shirt. Nobody beats our city sticker Kenya jacket or the leather jacket you're wearing for that matter that has stretch panels. It's lighter, it's stretchier than anything on the market. And I think it was retailing around $400. So that's a competitive anatomy package. We need to stick to it. And it stops working if we go outside of our comfort style, sportswear kind of thing, right? We failed. Sean was super excited to add fur collars to our puffy coats. And it was cute as heck. We loved it. And then nobody wanted it, right? Because once you cross the line, you can go to real fur companies and buy the real thing for thousands of dollars and it's worth it, right? So that's how we know who to listen to. And it tends to fail. I can run reports. I mean, you heard me, I have an MBA, so the numbers don't lie. So I don't want you to think it's subjective or something goes opinion based between Sean and I. It's I run reports and I look at numbers and say, look, your fur hoodie, so 21 pieces, and my city jacket is going on 3,000. Like, hello, right? The numbers don't lie. So you have to be also smart about the process that way. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. No, it makes perfect sense. I think it's a really, really hard question, and you can fall into that trap of trying to be all things to all people.
Exactly.
And what you're talking about is having that discipline, and also I think probably having the team, you and Sean there, having been there from the beginning and knowing what your core and what your DNA is, right? That enables you to withstand the winds that blow so that you can tweak here or there, but not really fundamentally change. It's a tough thing, I think, for any brand to find their core and then really stick to that.
Any business. Remember the story when Steve Jobs went back to Apple You probably know he took the grid and he said, okay, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. What are those 4 products that we're supposed to be doing instead of thousands of SKUs? So that's called over assorted. It happens in fashion. And when you're a small company and on tight ship with a limited budget, you don't have wiggle room to make a lot of mistakes. So I think Damon John calls it the power of broke, when you are like so focused because you don't have any dollars to waste.
Yeah.
So our line is really on point. And sometimes I talk to ladies who buy it for the first time and then they come back for more and say, kid, I feel like this was made for me. That's what we want from a first outfit experience.
Absolutely. So Kate, how do you think about, given that there's still a lot of uncertainty coming out of this pandemic and what this will look like over the course of the next several months and possibly years, who knows? But how are you planning for the future? How do you think about marketing of your brand when some of those contracts that you had before, they'll come back, but how long will it take for them to come back? How do you think about that?
So, well, first of all, our partners tell us. We have an amazing partnership with the Olympic Committee, and I had a contract signed. We were going in July to Tokyo. I had 30 female presenters with their anatomy outfits, fitted, styled, all over the world. I had presenters in Norway. I was so excited because one of the gymnastics presenter was wearing anatomy, not the actual athletes, but just the ladies traveling and presenting the athletes, right? So that's 2021. We know it. It's a year later. So some of them we have dates that the partners tell us. Like I know Montage opens June 1st, Four Seasons July 1st. So we have the dates. But for now, we are a global lifestyle brand. If you look at our social media, and again, I let the customers take the lead. But a couple of days into the lockdowns, we started getting pictures from our customers like yourself. Remember you sent me yours with your son and your daughter and just hanging out in the pants? And I have a family, a father and 2 sons in the men's pants grilling in the backyard and lady homeschooling 2 kids. So, they told us, Kate, even though we're locked down, this is the most comfortable thing I can wear today. So it's not just work from home and you put on your white shirt and you put on lipstick and it's like, oh my God, I'm dressed up. I feel great. I'm so confident. Right? So you have like a sense of sanity, right? The sense of normalcy is really interesting. So,
I mean, I think it's such an interesting question and it's almost impossible to answer, but it is something you have to try to plan, even though there is so much uncertainty and what that looks like. And I would assume, Kate, given that you're really connecting in perhaps maybe an additional way with your customers through Instagram and through social media, I assume you'll continue those channels and really try to build up the content around it, which I think is sort of an interesting element of showcasing your product.
You're so smart. So if you want to join our company, I have an office for you in Miami.
Well, I'm already dressed for it. So
smart. Yeah, you're so smart.
I'm wearing the outfit.
You're like hitting the nail on the head. So, for the first reaction of the shutdown, how do we communicate with the ladies? We went live on Instagram TV. I've never done it with my life. And we had thousands of views and an extremely engaged audience with hundreds of questions. The first 30 minutes we went live. And I started introducing our team, our stylist, our shipping manager. And now it's becoming a division because the sales from those days and the surrounding couple of days are building a department on its own. So now we have a division called virtual selling. It's incredible because in the last 6 weeks, you ladies showed us that you want it. So it's becoming, even in our accounting, our investors and our board is noticing like, okay, you have .com, you have your virtual selling, then you have your in-home stylist as well, a direct-to-consumer model, which for us, you heard the beginning of the story. Yeah, I could pivot in my sleep. Right, Sean and I launched the brand like that, from home to home, from one lady at a time. We called it one sandwich at a time. We're back to that. So to me, I'm not going to say business as usual, but we're not scared because we've done it before. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So long-term plans my 5-year plan haven't changed. My 3-year plan hasn't changed. We're still in the middle of our Series B round. This is the 3rd round of financing, and we still have interested parties and some commitments already for the next round of funding for anatomy. But it's really, if I can give any advice to somebody, this is not a pause or a standby button. This is a fast forward into the 22nd century. And for those who can catch up and learn fast and pivot fast will survive. And the brands that make noise during these times will be remembered for a very long time. And at the same time, a lot of dinosaurs who were already struggling are going to disappear. So it's kind of like a natural selection and survival of the fittest that's happening, not just in the apparel industry, but I'm sure with restaurants and all the other, industries as well around the world. It's scary in a way, but now you know me, I'm not afraid of anything. I love the challenge. Yeah. I think we're having fun actually.
Yeah. No, I
See,
mean,
I'm like bouncing. I'm sitting on a ball, right? I'm so excited, it gives little brands like us, not little, but smaller brands, a chance to become a household name.
Yeah. Yeah. Any advice for people who maybe are struggling with their positivity? I mean, you're really embracing this change and this challenge. And I have to believe it probably comes from your upbringing, your mindset, the way you were raised. I mean, all these things presumably factor into how you view the world. But if you could give people maybe one piece of advice for how to really embrace change and maintain that level of positivity, what would you recommend?
It's hard. So I try to look at the glass half full, right? And, in all honesty, I don't watch the news. And when it all started, I did in the beginning and then I stopped because it's just too much negative. So when my husband watches the news in the morning, I take the dog for a walk and I even take my daughter out, right? And then she gives me flowers. Look, I got this morning.
And she's 5. Your daughter's 5.
Yeah, see, how could you not look at the bright side of life? So if you have little kids, they'll show you the way out, because they are in a little bubble and so cute. Let's help. Yeah. We adopted Luna, little American bulldog. She's barking. Get some help. We have a board of directors and almost 40 shareholders, and I talk to each one of them about different topics. So when I had some tough choices with employees, furloughing people and even letting one go who was actually my triathlon coach, and I love the guy, and he just the first one who had to go because he was linked to our cruise business that might not come back for a year. So, and then I made some calls and said, how should I go about this? Can you help me? So get some help, talk to people you trust, whether it's friends and family or other business advisors. It's also interesting how you have people's eyes and ears. So if you want to communicate, you can catch people who otherwise wouldn't listen, whether it's LinkedIn or another social media platforms. I mean, look at us talking to each other, right?
Right.
We're like the living proof.
Yep.
So look at the bright side, cook some good food, spend time with kids and dogs, get out a little bit. I tell my daughter, even though the beaches are closed, my computer had that. Even though the beaches are closed, you're going to laugh, but we climbed over the fence, we jumped in the water and then ran back to the car. So misbehaving is fun. Mindsets are hard to change.
Yeah.
But there's, whether it's little activities like that or a nice meal with the family or, getting dressed up in your anatomy outfit and putting some lipstick on so you feel better about yourself. Definitely don't stay in your sweatpants, ladies, because that's dangerous. That's like giving up on life so bad. These pants are tight, right? So you're going to stay fit. So they stay the same size after.
Right. Well, as I think I disclosed to you, I actually had to buy 2 pair because my skinny cargo pants are a little bit snug at the moment. So we have 2 sizes.
Oops.
Exactly.
And definitely our advisors help a lot through some, like business-wise. It's interesting because I could never really talk to my parents per se, because we're like a different world, it's very personal. So my dad was a chemist and my mom worked in logistics. So we never talk about the business, actually. Interesting. Yeah. But if you have friends and family and advisors, that's helpful.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
Yeah. Kate, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you joining me. Your perspective is so inspiring, and as are your great clothes. So I really appreciate you spending the time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
To learn more about Kate Boyer and her company Anatomy, check out the show notes for this episode. I will include links to the company as well as some other great details that I think you might find really interesting. As always, I am so grateful that you've chosen to spend your time with us. Please let me know what you think. Be safe and take care.